Hey guys, welcome back to my small engine repair channel. Today we're going to be going over some necessary diagnostic tools that I feel are necessary if you're going to be a small engine mechanic. I may miss some, I may have some that you feel aren't quite as necessary in your area or for what you're doing. But I just went through my toolboxes real quick and pulled out what I feel like I use pretty regularly to diagnose problems and issues with my customers' equipment. Things that I feel that are pretty necessary to do my job accurately and efficiently. You might be able to do some of this without it, but let's be honest, we all like tools. I like tools a lot. If I find a cool tool and it helps my job go by quicker, more efficiently, shoot, why not buy it? So these aren't, I won't present these in any particular order, but these are, like I said, all tools that I've pulled out of my box that I feel like are pretty necessary to diagnose and in turn repair equipment pretty efficiently. My least favorite is electrical. Can be a big money maker if you're good at it, but it can be a drag to find issues. But first and foremost, you need a good multimeter, digital multimeter. Different companies make these. You can go as cheap as, getting some from Harbor Freight. I've heard people getting them for free on their coupon deal, all the way up to buying, a Fluke, or even buying a fancy one off the tool trucks. A lot of my tools do come from the tool trucks. I have tool trucks come to my shop, and I do purchase off of them regularly. Not all tools need to be purchased off the tool truck. In fact, a lot of tools off the tool truck are just rebrands. So in that sense, you can go cheaper route, but you do get what you pay for. In terms of regular use hand tools, sockets, and stuff like that, I personally feel you need to go better. I mean, it all depends what you're doing. If you're in this as a DIYer, you're just fixing your own stuff, there's no need whatsoever to buy real fancy, expensive tools. You can get stuff done with stuff from Harbor Freight or Home Depot, whatever, the big box stores. But if you're doing this as a career, I'll tell you what, I've used everything from Harbor Freight sockets to Husky to Cobalt to Craftsman to Snap-on and everything in between. And there truly is a difference. So take that for what it's worth. We're going on a tangent now, but they do have obviously whole range of these, and you don't have to go expensive on these. Just make sure you're getting accurate readings when you're using them. They can be off a little bit, but just check twice and don't get aggravated. As long as you know what you're doing, it can be fun if you track it down and make an electrical repair and make good money on it efficiently. So get yourself a good multimeter. These, you can check batteries, you can check fuses, you can check, there's a whole slew of things that you can use on these. So get yourself a good multimeter. This one is a Klein. I picked this up at Home Depot. This one was probably, if I remember right, it was right around 30 bucks. I also have a Craftsman that I use. I actually like the Craftsman one a lot. Picked that up probably 10 bucks online. So also on the electrical side, get yourself a good test light. You can hook this up to the battery, check for ground, check for lots of things with this. Quick check on fuses, check if the fuses are good. This will be a big lifesaver. Again, you don't have to, this one is a snap-on, but You don't have to go expensive on this either. Just something that will light up when you got your connections right, and be able to check things pretty quick and efficiently. This will save you a bunch of time as well. Kind of, since we're talking about batteries and electrical, I guess we'll jump into the battery load tester. This is what they call a carbon pile tester. It runs a load through these carbon piles, and it will tell you, if once you hook it up, it will tell you kind of the voltage, and then once you put it on the load, it'll tell you exactly where your battery stands in terms of being able to hold a load or not. I do have electrical ones that you hook up, and it will tell you exactly how many cold cranking amps it's got and stuff like that, and those are awesome. I love those a lot. But this is just a cheap way to hook it up and test it real quick. You can get this. I think I picked this up on Amazon for maybe $15 or $20 as a Schumacher unit right here. So it's a good thing to, like I said, it works two different ways. It tells you the voltage. So if you don't have your multimeter handy, hook it up real quick. Tells you a quick voltage. Tells you if the battery's got a charge to it, and then you can test it real quick. Tell you if it's going to be able to hold a load or not, or if the battery's bad. Spark testers, use these all the time. These are pretty cheap, no matter which one you choose. They come in different varieties. I've never used or liked or cared for this style, but like I said, they come in different varieties. This is an Oregon one. Might be a Briggs & Stratton, can't remember. But if you're in the trade, you know how these work. But you stick this in the spark plug boot, you clip this to the spark plug head, you check for spark in here. This one's, I don't love this one. It's hard to see, especially on lawnmowers and stuff, when you're back pulling the recoil and trying to check for spark at the same time. It's real hard to see the little jump across. So I actually picked this one up. It's a Lyle. Picked this up on Amazon for, again, I want to say it was $10 maybe. But you hook this up same fashion. It's actually got two different. You can hook it up either way. Put the straight side on, or vice versa. Flip these around. I mean, it's universal, I guess, depending on what your application is. But there's a little bulb in there that will actually flash orange. So it's super bright. It's not necessarily the little spark jumping. I don't believe. I'm pretty sure the spark actually ignites the light bulb. Anyways, this one's really bright. It's really good. If you've got it on the front of a lawnmower and you're checking for spark and you're back pulling it at the bale, you can actually see this from back there. So I like this one a lot. This one's my favorite. But spark testers are critical. I use these all the time just to make sure you got spark in all sorts of machines, everything we work on. You've got to make sure you've got spark, compression, all that stuff to make sure you've got your engines can run. So spark testers are critical. Got several varieties there, like I said. Let's see. We got the next compression tester. Back to kind of what I was saying, you get what you pay for. If you're doing this, as a hobby, it's hard to say. You can get by going cheap, but again, if your readings are off, what good is it going to do you? So, you don't have to buy off the tool truck per se, even as a hobbyist, but even if you are just doing this for yourself, you do want accurate readings. So spend a little bit of money. I actually love this compression tester. It's a Mightyvac. It's a Mightyvac MV5530. I picked this up on Amazon based on the reviews. I do have a Snap-on compression tester. It's the motorcycle compression tester, so it doesn't quite have all the adapters and stuff that fit small engines. So I was looking for something different, you know, just different adapters and stuff, and I came across this. And so I picked this up. I want to say it was $50 or $60 or so. And I love this thing. I mean, it's got every adapter you need, you know, for any different spark plug hole that I've ever needed. I haven't come across anything that I haven't been able to use these on. So this is the main one, which is pretty common. So this has been great. Like I said, $50 or $60. This one puts out the same readings that my Snap-on does. You know, so this has been a real great unit for me. Like I said, it wasn't super expensive, but you know, it's going to be more money than, you know, you get something at Harbor Freight, or you know, there's some other cheaper ones, no name brands on Amazon as well. So but like I said, I love this one, Mighty Vac. But compression testers are critical as well. Some people say you don't need a compression tester if you've got a leak down tester. But honestly, for me, at least personally, this is my opinion. Tell me in the comments or whatever if I'm wrong, but it's a lot quicker and easier for me to throw a compression tester on there real quick and see if there's compression or not. In my area where I'm at, a lot of people, you know, would rather buy a new machine than put a bunch of money into it. So, you know, basically what I do is I throw a compression tester on it, especially two-stroke equipment. You know, if it's under the 90, 80 PSI mark, you know, I'll call the customer up and say, hey, look, here's where we're at. These things like to run on at least 100 PSI. Do you want me to dig further and see what the issue is? You know, most of the times it's going to be A, B, C, or D. Here's the cost, an estimated cost. And that from there, they'll say, oh, heck no, I can buy a new unit for $150. I'll just go do that. And so pulling out a compression or a leak down tester, and, you know, on mowers and stuff, it's critical because you can find out, you know, if it's the cylinder or the valve, and if you need to adjust the valves and all sorts of stuff. But especially on two-stroke equipment, I like doing this real quick, just because it tells me if most of the time out here, I don't know that I can probably count on one or two hands how many times I've actually done a rebuild or complete machine repair on a two-stroke piece of equipment out here. Most people in my area particularly just want to scrap their machine and go buy a new unit. So I love this machine unit, piece of equipment, tool, whatever. I use this all the time, and this has been a good tool for me. Speaking of leak down tester, again, this is something you probably want to spend a little bit of money on if you're doing this for money. This is, I got this out the tool truck. This is a Matco brand. Well, they rebranded it. I believe this is actually an OTC, if I'm not mistaken, which you can get on Amazon. But spend a little bit of money on these. You want these to have accurate readings. That way you know exactly what you're looking at, what you're dealing with, if there is actually an issue. But this is pretty critical as well. Like I said before, if you've got no compression or low compression, you hook this up and it'll tell you exactly where it's coming from. If you've got a stuck valve, if you've got a bad cylinder or bad piston rings, all sorts of stuff. This will basically pinpoint the cause of your issue. So keeps you from having to go in and start digging around. It just kind of tells you exactly where to go. So this is awesome. I love this particular one. It's been great for me. And I use it fairly often, and you know, anytime there's low or no compression, this one always comes out. So another critical diagnostic tool that you should have in your arsenal. Let's see, we're getting down to the end of what I've got. This is probably not a lot of people do this anymore or have these, or use them or anything. I actually didn't even pull out the other stuff I use with this, like my telescoping gauges or my bore gauges, whatever. But this is mostly just if you're doing rebuilds or stuff like that, just to be able to, it's a micrometer, basically just to be able to measure specs, see if they're out of spec or if they're within the limits, to be able to reuse parts, pistons or connecting rods or crankshafts or anything like that. I've got a whole kit of them. As you can see, they're still wrapped up. This 1 inch is the only one I've used so far. So maybe not something that's super critical for you guys. Like I said, everybody's different, kind of depending on what you do in your shop. But for me, this is something that doesn't get used a lot, but it is something that you definitely need if you are really getting down to the nitty-gritty of things and measuring things to find out if they need to be replaced or not, in terms of manufacturer specifications and their limits. So just something I have. Like I said, don't use a ton, but something good to have. Vacuum. This one is actually, it can go both ways, vacuum or pressure. This is good to have. It's got a whole bunch of different connections for the front. Steel makes, this is from Power Probe, but Steel has a whole kit that's basically identical. If you work for Steel or Steel Tech or whatever, it's basically the same thing. But this is good to be able to check crankcase vacuum, pressure. You can do, carburetor pop-off tests. I do have a carburetor pop-off tester as well. That's made by Mikuni. I've got one of those I forgot to pull out, but so this is good for that kind of stuff. Can do vacuum or pressure, like I said. I actually used this the other day to bleed out the brakes on my wife's car, so it can be used for lots of things, but good little unit there. And then lastly, last units that I've got in my little arsenal. Like I said, if I'm missing something, may have forgotten something, or if you use something in your area that I haven't thought of, or something in here that you're like, well, I'd never use that, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to get some more ideas or hear what you guys use. But tachometer, I've got 3 different kinds here, just kind of depending on what situation I'm in. This is probably the one I use the most. This is an Opama PET 1100R. It's the one they use for Echo. All the Echo Techs have these, but it's an Opama PET 1100R. It's got all your specs back here, 2 or 4 stroke, how many cylinders, and then you just put this right up next to the spark plug, and it digitally tells you, what your RPM's at. This is the Briggs & Stratton one. Don't have the part number for you, but you set this, on top of the engine, and you pull this out until this is vibrating, and when the yellow reaches its farthest point, that's when you need to stop, rotating it or whatever. I'm sure you've seen videos or whatever, but when it's something like that, if you can see that, you can see this little yellow tab at its widest point, smooth vibration, and then you come down here and kind of just tell, 3, maybe 31. So it's probably like 31, 52 maybe. So these are pretty good, pretty accurate as well. And then I've also got this snap-on one as well. Use this quite a bit, but like I said, this Opama one is probably my go-to. This one's for gas or diesel. You select the strokes, or 2 or 4 stroke, how many spark plugs you got, excuse me, your cylinders. Anyways, it's a good little unit. That's not something you need to spend a ton of money on. This one right here is about $115. This Briggs & Stratton one, I think this sucker's a little pricey. I want to say this is 30 or 40 bucks maybe. But pretty critical if you're fine-tuning engines. You know, a lot of people say, well, I can do it to ear, or I can just listen for it, and that's fine. But I like to be pretty exact, pretty precise, especially when you're doing, you know, something in particular. Those Hondas, there's a service bulletin out for their governor spring that you have to switch out, and you've got to lower the RPM by 50 RPM. And anyways, it's good to be as close as you can. So I actually use these a lot. I actually check the RPM on every machine that comes in and out, just to make sure it's right in spec or in a decent range for my customers. So anyways, I believe that is it. All I've got for my diagnostic tools that I use regularly. Once again, if you guys have anything, suggestions, tips, or any that you use, brands, anything like that, put them in the comments below. I'm curious to see what other people are doing out there, but this is kind of what I have and what I do. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like this video, comment, subscribe, do whatever you guys do. I'm kind of new to this, so I'd love your feedback, but if you guys feel inclined to subscribe and like the video, that would sure help me out a lot. But other than that, thank you for watching. Hope you guys have a great day.